Hello. In this lesson, we want to write a program which will use a user-defined void method to do some of the work that used to be done in the main method. So the specific task is, in this program, write a program which asks the user for a number and then prints the times table for that number. And the second part of the instruction is to use a new static method called makeTable to calculate and display the table. Well, let's look at the code that I've written already. This does the job, except that it does not make use of a different user-defined method. Everything is in the main method. So let's check our program and see if this runs well. Let's first look at the code carefully. I have an integer variable called table. Notice that this integer variable is, as always, declared inside the main method, inside public static void main. So I declared a variable called table, and then I'm printing out some heading lines. The SSir Online School void and type methods demo. It's Java program. That's all the heading. Here I get a value for table by using integer.parseInt and J option pane show input dialog. So the user enters a number from 1 to 10. And then I have a loop that runs from 1 up to 12 and prints out the times table. Let's run this and just make sure that it does what we want it to do. So I'm running it. It asks me for a number. Let's put in 5. And you can see at the bottom here, I have the 4 times 5 is 20. As a matter of fact, the others are there as well. 1 times 5 is 5, 2 times 5, etc. right up to 12 times 5 is 60. So our program runs, and it does, in essence, what I wanted the program to do. Except we want to, for the first time, create a new method other than the main method, which will do some of this work. So we are going to create a new method and call it makeTable method, and it must do this part. For integer I equals 1 to 10, 1 to 12 do, and print the table. So how do I do that? Well, it can't be within the main method. It has to be either below or above it. So my main method ends over here with that bracket. So that's below the main method. And I'm going to have a method called public static, and it is a void method. Now what does that mean? Void means the whole method does not return anything to the calling statement. So this will become clearer later. Just bear with me now. Public static void, and I'm going to call this makeTable. So now I have created an empty structure. It's a void method, it's a static method, and it's public. For now, you don't have to worry about what these mean, but I do want you to use them when we create a void method to produce some code that used to be executed, for instance, in the main method. So I'm going to merely copy and paste those lines of code, cut it, and paste it down here. So while the integers from 1 to 12 print out the 12 times table, or the 6 times, or whatever it is, times table. But suddenly I have errors. And this error says multiple markers, table can't be resolved. So the variable table, which was declared over here, is not available in this method. And perhaps this is a good time to start talking about local and global variables. A variable lives or exists only while the method in which it is declared is being run. So this variable called table exists in the main method while the main method is being run. It does not exist in the makeTable method. The only way to make it available in the makeTable method is to declare this variable in a different place, not inside the main method. And the different place that I'm going to declare it is right at the top of my class, outside any of the methods. And there I'm going to say public static int table. And now I can comment out this declaration. So suddenly, I have a variable called table, which is declared at the top of my class before any methods have been declared, and that variable will now exist whenever the class is being run, not when the main method is being run. It is available to this method as well, the makeTable method. So now let's run this program and see what happens. As a matter of fact, before I run it, let's just make sure. Initially, these lines, the heading will be printed, and then table gets a value, and public static void can now use the table variable in order to produce this output. However, there is something missing. This method must be called before it can be executed. And the way we call it is by merely putting down its name. So makeTable and its brackets on its own with a semicolon. So let's run this and see what happens. As I run it, I put a number 5. And can you see that our output is the same as it used to be? If I scroll up, I do have the heading, and I have the whole table being printed. But let's look at the difference between the code I have now and the code I used to have. In the past, these lines of code were inside the main method. And now they're in a different method that is merely called by one line in the main method. So I have shortened and simplified my main method quite substantially. After this discussion, you should be able to take any of your main methods, and where you do a lot of work, you can take that amount of work and put it in a different method and merely call that method. As a matter of fact, we can now break up long main methods into various subprograms or submethods and shorten our main method by merely calling those void methods or subprograms one by using their name. By the way, these methods that we call in this way by merely referring to the name of the method on its own line of code, notice makeTable is on its own line, these are called void methods. In another video, we will talk about typed methods, which actually return a value and are not called in this way alone on a single line with their own name and empty brackets.